Welcome everyone to the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon. Thanks for attending and we hope you're having a great conference so far. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Rene Modery, who will be presenting the session on effectively using Azure DevOps services in Microsoft Teams. And I'll hand over to him now. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. So we're going to talk about how you can use Azure DevOps within Microsoft Teams in the next hour. Again, if you've got any questions, please post them in here in the Q&A. We'll take care of them at the end of the session. Just still some time towards the end. We've got some 10 minutes scheduled for that, and we'll definitely try to cover all of them that come in. And there we go. Quick comment again, the SharePoint conference has been renamed. It's now called the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference. It's going to take place next year in March in Las Vegas. If you're interested in it, already have a look at m365conf.com. To our sponsors, again, we say thank you to all of them for making all of this happen. On such short notice and enabling such a huge global event is really awesome. And it's great that we've got so many wonderful sponsors on board. The agenda for the next 15 minutes or so, just to get started, I want to give a very quick intro into DevOps. I want to talk about what is DevOps in general, and we're going to look at Azure DevOps briefly so that you get an idea what it is, how it works, how it should work, so that everyone here gets basically more or less towards the same level. Assumption is some of you might be already using DevOps techniques for a couple of years. Some might be relatively new to it. Some may not even have heard of it before. Idea is, yeah, at least we get to a very basic understanding at the beginning. We then start looking at how we can use DevOps in Teams, what kind of possibilities there are, and actually item 2 and 3. So with the demos, that's actually combined. So I'm relying on just a couple of slides, and I'll try to demo as much as possible so that you can see it really in action, so that we don't really look at just a lot of screenshots, but rather you see how we can connect the two of them, how DevOps can put content into Teams, etc. And again, at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So if you've got any questions, post them in the Q&A, and we'll take care of them towards the end. Quick intro about myself. So my name is Rene Modery. I live in Singapore, where I work for a global company, Group M, as APAC Office 365 Project Manager. The actual title is even longer, actually, but short, that's what I'm doing. So I'm working with Office 365 on a daily basis, supporting our region here, Asia Pacific. And yeah, what's on my plate is really everything within Office 365, be Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Power Platform, etc. Any kind of projects, initiatives that happen in the region or so. Basically, I'm the guy that can support our company with it. And there's a whole lot obviously happening at the moment because more people working from home. We see an increased demand in SharePoint, increased demand in holding Teams meetings, etc. So looking forward then to working on that some more. I'm an Microsoft MVP since 2012. Initially, it was for, well, the discipline was initially Office 365. Later, it was renamed, and the current naming convention is Office Apps and Services MVP. Reason behind it is I've been working with SharePoint since 2007, year-end version, and then with Office 365 since around the year 2011, if I'm not quite wrong. So MVP since 2012, then in various functionalities and with various names. What I'm doing here overall generally then is taking care of our community here in Singapore, running our user group, but also trying to support other communities globally if possible, especially in current times where it's a lot more common that you've got online events such as this one. If you want to get in touch with me, so you can quickly find me and easily find me on Twitter. Just look for my last name, Modery. My website, modery.net, can also be found easily. And lastly, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy usually to connect with anyone here. Just look for my name, relatively easily to find me online as well. All right, so that much about me. So let's talk about DevOps. Before we talk about the technologies, let's actually just set some basic foundations. What is DevOps? So here's a definition that I just took from the Microsoft website, actually from the Azure DevOps side, where it says DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. So the idea is that DevOps really allows you to combine people that you have, defined processes, and then products or tools then, and then have a continuous delivery of your solutions. So that in the end, what you have is then, instead of having slow release cycle, little feedback and such, you want to get quick release cycles, you want to deploy updated code quickly into your environments. You want to check if it's working. You want to get feedback quickly from your users, if it's working, if there are any issues, if anything could be improved. You plan with the feedback that you receive. You code again. You create another build, test, deploy again. You can continue that cycle again continuously. The idea is not that you're saying, okay, for the next 3 months we're going to code, and then we've got a month for testing, and then we're going to release it, and then we'll review again. But rather, no, we've got very quick deployments basically happening, and other deployment activities. And very important, actually, it's not just about the code here. It's obviously also about the people getting involved. So you don't just want to deploy code to the server and then it's done basically, even though it might have been super efficient. You want to get that feedback from people. That's the important thing. So people who are using your platform, your solution, your website, whatever you basically build, you want to get that feedback from them. And that's the important thing here really about DevOps, that you're not just technology focused, but you want to have your processes properly defined and available. You want to get feedback quickly happening and get basically to that point where you're in that constant phase of improving things, helping people, and importantly then in the end, delivering value to the people who are targeted by a solution. Now, DevOps then obviously includes then things as mentioned below here, agile planning. So you're not just planning, okay, I'm going to develop a large solution next 3 months. That's what we're going to do. And then afterwards, when we're done, we're going to plan again. But no, you basically plan continuously. You're working in certain sprints. You're working on, I don't know, developing something within the next 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks time, then you review again, okay, what are we going to do next? Not that you don't really know it, but you might have an idea, but maybe there are some shifting priorities based on some feedback you received. So you're reviewing again regularly what you are doing and what you're delivering. How do you now achieve that? So I mentioned you've got people, you've got process, you've got products and tools. One important thing, obviously, you want to create regular builds. You want to see if the code that you've been developing is working, if it succeeds or if it fails. So what you have is, for example, on a regular basis, you've got an automated build. An example, every night you might say, yes, whatever is in our code base right now, we are going to create another build and see if it succeeds or if it fails. The goal is really that you get quick feedback whether there are any potential issues again from those builds. Other options are you can also have some other automated builds based on certain triggers. So if you say, oh, when you could say when somebody checks something in or publishes something, some new code, then try to build it. Might be very often, might be a bit too often. Again, there's no definition or so on how often you have to do it. You have to basically look at that yourselves. But the idea is really build very often and not just, once every month or so we try to build our solution, see if it works. But no, build often, fail probably often at the beginning, but succeed very often in the end. The other thing is then obviously you are going to do a lot of deployments then as well. So when you've built something, then what you want to do is then you want to actually deploy your code into different or your build basically into different platforms, and you want to get feedback then from what's been happening there as well. So you deploy into development environment, succeeds, great. You continue deploying into a UAT environment. Oh, it fails there. Maybe you need to change something. So you need to get some feedback, update something, and re-continue with that process again. I'm talking about code, obviously. So very common thing. I mean, standard thing anyway for anyone who's coding at the moment is obviously, and not just at the moment, for I don't know how many decades it's up. You want to put something into a version control repository. So you want to make sure that your code that you're working on is stored somewhere secure, that you have got different branches, you can have different features in your repository, etc. That's obviously a requirement for DevOps, because you want to have multiple people, maybe even multiple teams working on a code basis, and you want them to work on it effectively without interrupting each other. So having that content repository, code repository, is quite essential as well. For the planning aspects, very important when you're planning, again, you're not just planning, yeah, we're gonna develop A, B, and C within the next 3 months, but rather you say you break it down actually in smaller bits and pieces. Now you're saying, yeah, we want to develop a small file upload functionality, we want to develop a rating system, etc. So you're basically breaking it up a little bit, making it into smaller pieces that can be worked on within a smaller amount of time, so that you can then actually plan, what are we going to work on right now? At the beginning of the week, you might say, okay, we are going to work on 3 new items. They are small enough so that we can finish them by the end of next week within our current sprint. And you can then basically say, yes, that's our current activity. You might then also plan, okay, what else needs to be done in the future? There's some new items to be planned, etc. But the idea is then that you visualize it, actually, you put it in front of people so that your development team sees, okay, how much backlog do we have? How many items are still left in to do? How many are currently in progress? How long does it usually take to actually move from one stage to the other? Are we too slow? Are we moving at an appropriate pace, etc.? So really not just basically working with something, not knowing, yeah, how long is it going to take us or so, but putting it in front of people. They see what's happening, what should happen soon, what has happened when, and yeah, showing them what's actually really going on in your development phase. Related to that is also some monitoring activities. So once you deploy your code or your build to an environment and people start using it, you want to monitor it. Is it working well? Are there performance issues? That's again also providing you again with some feedback. You're not just relying on feedback from users, but you might also actually rely on feedback from the platform, because the users might say, yeah, everything looks good, but the platform in the background might say, yeah, every hour suddenly performance drops for 10 seconds, and you might actually want to investigate it. So monitoring is also essential, not just to make sure that from time to time somebody looks into it, but really to also get that feedback again quite regularly and quickly. And lastly, obviously, DevOps can be or should also be supported by cloud platforms. While you can achieve DevOps with on-prem systems only, there are so many amazing platforms and tools available to you within the cloud that you can leverage. So there's a whole bunch of them that you can really make good use of and that you can integrate in your development cycle. And Azure DevOps obviously is one of them, which we are now going to look at. So everything more or less that I just described is usually then available within Azure DevOps. And the good thing about Azure DevOps is that it doesn't actually prescribe you with, for example, when it comes to your code repository, what you have to use. There are certain possibilities what you can use. As an example, you have the possibility to use GitHub as your code repository here within Azure DevOps, but you could also use something else. It can be a bit flexible. It doesn't really narrow you down in one path, but it allows you also to leverage some other things that you have. And what we see here is just an example of a DevOps project that was created. What we can see here is, again, on the left side, we see we've got, for example, an overview. So again, showing again anybody going here, what's going on in the project, how large it is, what's happening in it, what is it about, etc. We see the board, so for the planning phase. What work items do we need to work on? Who is working on them? Any more details on them? Are there any bugs, etc., etc. All that planning can be done in boards. Repos again allows you to store your code, anything that you're working on, to check it out, update in Visual Studio, test it, put it back into your repository, check it back in, etc. Pipelines allows you then to leverage the different build functionalities. You can say, okay, I'm first going to try to, for example, create a pipeline. Say I'm going to build it, deploy to UAT. If that succeeds, then deploy to another environment as an example. Or if it fails, then roll it back as an example. Test plans, make sure that everything's obviously getting tested properly. And lastly, artifacts, anything else that we want to put in there. Now, again, a lot of you might be working already with DevOps, so we're not going to look in detail actually how this one works, but we want to see how we can now put this one into Microsoft Teams. And now just again, some basics quickly in the next 5 minutes to make sure that we all also understand what is actually Microsoft Teams. Well, I hope that you're using it already, that you've got a quite good understanding. Just want to again make sure everyone has the same basic level of understanding. So Microsoft Teams is Microsoft's hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. It allows you to create teams, dedicated spaces where people can come together, where they can chat, where they can meet, where they can call each other in audio calls or video calls, where they can collaborate on content, where they can hold discussions, where they can access important apps and workflows, and a whole lot more. So the idea is then, depending on your scenario, maybe you're a project or in a department or something else, an initiative, you can create a team and then basically put all relevant content and discussions into that dedicated team. And that brings us then basically to how do you now structure it? What is available in here? And which will also then bring us to how we can actually connect teams and DevOps with each other. The structure in teams is we've got multiple teams within teams. So you can easily create your own team whenever needed. So we can see, oh, I've got a new project. I can easily create a new team for it and then work within that team. I might be also a member of a couple of different other teams, depending on my current scenario. And I can also look for teams that I might want to join. Within a team, then we've got channels. So again, that's a segregation and separation within the team, just to make sure that we're not cluttering one space with all the information, but we'll make sure, hey, within our project, we might, for example, have different channels to discuss project plans, resources, activities, and other things. I mean, you're flexible enough to actually create an appropriate number of channels as required for your team and whatever you've been working on. And you could easily manage them and make sure then that it's fit for purpose and revisit again and update it accordingly. In each channel, you also have tabs at the top so that you also then can provide different access points to, again, different kinds of content. So you've got your posts that we can see here. Again, that's basically where you can chat with your colleagues within the same team and the same channel. You've got files where you can collaborate content, but you can also pin some other tabs here on top, which can then link to different apps that you have, whether it's internal or external. It can link to basically a whole lot of other things, and there's a big bunch of tab connectors available to you. And we'll look at the DevOps one then later in this session. Now, so I've been talking about DevOps, I've been talking about teams. Why do we bring them together, or how do we bring them together? So when you're working in a development project, you're not just working within that small development team, but you also have some other stakeholders. As mentioned earlier, important for DevOps, you want to get feedback very often from the other stakeholders, so people who are using your platform or people who are sponsoring your development efforts, for example. You want to engage with them openly, and that's where teams can help you. So when you're working on a project, a lot of that communication could happen through email, could happen somewhere else, but obviously in Teams, it's quite nice when you've got your chat window here within your channel, for example, where you can engage with people on any kinds of activities. You can have your discussions, you can meet here easily with stakeholders, discuss it with them. You can obviously engage with them on other activities, etc. And we'll look at some of those possibilities here in a second as well. And again, you can also actually share things that are happening in DevOps with others. So let's face it, you don't want all of your stakeholders to access DevOps. You don't want to grant them access to all the work items, to the code base, etc. But you want them to be aware of what's happening very often. For example, you might want to update them on, I don't know, when a build succeeds or when a build fails potentially, or when you publish a new version, for example, or when, I don't know, when a new work item gets created, you might even want to put that into Teams. That's what you can do, and that's what we're going to do in a minute, actually, so you can see it in action. You can also collaborate on other artifacts. So on anything that you don't want to put in DevOps, you can also obviously put into Teams and collaborate in here. So you've still got one central location here in Teams that everybody can work on. Ideas, for example, when you create documentations, let's call it the end user documentations, how do you use our new website? How do you use our new application? It's not something that you just publish once at the end and everybody's happy, but because you're constantly making changes to the platform, publishing new features, you also update documentation. And if it's simply said some PowerPoint presentation, some Word documents that you're using here for, why not put them actually into Teams and grant an access to those stakeholders to it while you're working on it here, so that they can also review it here directly. So that's another possibility. While that doesn't actually mean, yeah, you're integrating DevOps in that scenario, in the broader sense, as a development team, you can still bring your stakeholders on board then to help you out with that. Now, one very important thing actually before we move on and go to the demos is anything that should happen in DevOps should also remain in DevOps. So don't do things in Teams that you are already doing in DevOps. You don't want to duplicate the effort or create additional effort. If you're, I don't know, discussing a bug in Teams, then might already be wrong. Maybe that information should come and go directly into DevOps. There may be cases where it makes sense, but you should have clear guidelines on when and how to do that. Yeah. Now come the slides where I took some backup screenshots, but I'm gonna go directly here now into Teams and into DevOps to show you really how things work actually. The slides are not very interesting anymore, I would say. Again, just a couple of screenshots. I'm going to show you now actually what we can do here with Teams and with DevOps, how we can actually integrate them. So I'm here in Teams. I'm connected or logged in as Alex Wilbur, who's in charge of Project Stardust. It's just a small development project that just published on a small website, nothing fancy. What he did is created a small team here, called it Project Stardust accordingly, obviously, invited a couple of people and started to create a couple of channels. Separately, what we have over here is, here we've got our small DevOps project. We can see here, it's called Stardust again. It's a small website. We're not going to look at the website actually, we're just focusing actually on the, what's directly in here in DevOps, meaning we can see, for example, we've got a couple of boards. Let me just look, for example, at the work items. So you can see here, there's some work items. We've got, for example, some backlog items. We've got some bugs. We've got some tasks. We've got some epics, etc. So everything has been put in here properly, and we can easily create new work items. We can check what's the current state. Some have been approved. We can see who has it been assigned to, etc., etc. And we can also look here at the boards for all of that. So we can see, for example, what's currently new, what has not been worked on, what's approved, so what should be worked on, what has been built and tested, what has been deployed. So all the information is here nicely planned out, and we can, for example, easily go in and also then review again and provide additional comments, update it, etc. So standard default DevOps. Repos, actually, just to show you that there's something there. We've got some content in here. I'm not going to look into it in detail again. So we've just got a couple of demo content in here just to make sure that when we run any demos, it's going to work. And we've got some pipelines. I'm just going to kick one off actually. So when we want to build something in here, we can see actually I've got a schedule. We can see something was running here 49 minutes ago, and basically you can see every day we've got something running here. So I'm just going to run one again quickly as well. That's going to run Azure pipelines. Yeah, all good. We'll come back to that again in, I think it takes around 10 minutes, so we'll come back to that again later. So we see Teams, we see DevOps. Now let's bring them together. So we can see I've got a couple of channels, and I can see already there's one called DevOps. Let's have a look what's in here. And you've just seen actually, I was actually creating some builds automatically, and they also get posted here into Teams. So you can see here there's a notification from DevOps twice a day approximately telling me about what happened. So you can see, for example, 49 minutes ago, there were updates here telling me, oh, this build here succeeded, another build here. I think I just set it up twice at some point, also succeeded. Let me just show you here again. Let's just go back to your pipelines. That's once again exactly what has been happening here. Our runs have been executed here 15 minutes ago. They succeeded, all good. And it has been posted here directly into Teams. Why do we do that? So the good thing is I can now say, all good, great. So we can actually comment on it. And the important thing is here, what is happening in DevOps here gets sent into Teams, and what you can do now is actually people who don't have access to DevOps can now actually also comment on it. Again, we'll come back to when does it make sense, when does it not make sense as part of this demo, but you can see before I got some notifications in here, and if I come in here and let me just do a quick comment separately. In a separate browser on my right side, you can see here now Megan Bowen said, thanks. Megan might just be a project stakeholder who does not have access to DevOps as an example. So she can also comment on here. She has visibility on what's happening, etc. And if we now, for example, run a pipeline again, that's going to fail. Let me just actually do that as well. If I use another agent pool that's not actually configured, not working, we should be able to see then a failed notification here in a minute. Now, the question is, how do you bring those notifications in? How do you now connect DevOps with Teams so that whenever a build fails or succeeds or something happens, basically it comes in here? While the build is, yeah, it failed already. Let's have a quick look at how we can connect it. So over here on the list of my channels, I can actually select connectors. Let's have a look at the connectors for my DevOps channel. I can see there's already something that's configured here, and that's my Azure DevOps. I previously set it up so that you can see what's actually happening here right now. And I can see, for example, here right now I said, oh, if a build is completed for my Startjust project, actually then post it in here. And that's actually what's happening. And you can see 10:26, that's what really just happened just now, actually. The failed build that I just triggered actually just came in, so I can now come back in and again and just do a comment again. So a project stakeholder again who does not have access to DevOps can now actually get that visibility on if something is happening, when something is happening, how something is happening within DevOps. And you can have other conversations here that may not actually occur directly in DevOps. And then you can say, yes, basically continue the conversation here in Teams and then check out, hey, why did a build fail in DevOps, and do further review. We've seen now that, yes, something has already been configured, but let's actually configure some more. So I'm just going to actually create a new channel. So I'm going to call the channel activities, B. And the idea is that what we're going to do and quickly set up is any activity within DevOps, within the work items, should get posted here to this channel. So again, we're going to go to our connectors, and I haven't configured anything for it yet. So let me just show you, no connector configurations found, nothing there. What we want to do now is actually want to connect Azure DevOps, and it's actually the first thing here that's already recommended. I'm going to configure it now. So now comes the very interesting part. So first of all, I previously connected already to DevOps with my Alex Wilbur account. That's what we continue to do. I select my, again, DevOps specific definition here, how it has been set up. I select my organization, select my project. And now I can also do some further refinement. So I could go even further. Hey, I only want to see information from a specific team, or I want to see any. If you've got multiple teams, for example, working on it, you could create multiple channels for each team, or if you've got only one team, obviously you can do all of it in here, or you can actually just say, yeah, I want to aggregate anyway, even though I've got multiple teams here. Right now, I'm just going to say any, even though I could also just say I want to show here my Smart Hotel 360 team. And event type. Select type of event to receive notifications for. So that's the important thing here. We want to basically now select what kind of events that occur in DevOps should trigger a notification and send a card here into Teams. And there's a whole lot of things that we can select here. So you can see, for example, build completed. That's something that we're using in our DevOps channel as an example. You can see there's a whole range that we can select. So now I'm just going to say actually work item updated. And I can do some further refinement again. So maybe I want to not get notified about all work items, but only in a certain area path. For certain work item types, so maybe only if it's a bug as an example, or again, if only a specific field has been updated. So I could really put in some, you could say, filters, and depending how you set up your project in DevOps, you can then obviously leverage that accordingly. Demo purposes, I'm going to keep it as it is and just say notify me about any update that's happening. And obviously, you can hopefully hear it from the tone. Any update is maybe not always the best option. So this has been now configured, all good. I'm going to close that now. You can see now, yeah, that's already the first notification that it has been set up. Say just testing. And let's go over here into our work items. So let's make some updates. Site crashes in IE9. Not a great thing to happen. So we can say, for example, how many people are still using IE9? Should we even support it? Well, this. Okay. I'm just going to save this one. Let's go back to work items. Allow filtering of data. Let's just actually have a quick look. Yeah. Let's just actually remaining work, let's just upgrade. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Remaining work, let's just say 10, for example. Priority, we're going to change to 1. And let's make maybe 2 more quick changes. Okay. As a front, there's something. Let's go into this one. Unassigned, let's maybe just assign actually Alex to it to work on it. And smartphone experience. Let's just update the dates. Starting 1st of June, ending 31st of August. Good. So now we made a couple of updates here in to our work items in DevOps. Obviously, you're doing that regularly, very often on a daily basis. You're updating items that you've worked on, you're adding some new comments, you're changing some dates. There's a whole lot of things, obviously, that you're doing because you're not just basically working on something, but you're also updating the status in here, etc., etc. Let's have a look here at our activities, and we can see, whoa, a lot of it just came in. So you can see our bug here, site cursor in IE9. We can see there's a comment here that came in. The one that I just posted in DevOps is here as well. Allow filtering of data. It doesn't tell me actually here right now what has happened, but I can now click here, focus on task 73, and have a look at it again. So what I updated here was, for example, priority and remaining work. Doesn't tell me here right now, but at least I know something has been done. Here I can see that, for example, an update has been done, whom something has been assigned to. And lastly, again, we can see also my smartphone experience where I changed the days, something has happened. But you see now, I made 4 quick updates in 2 minutes. Imagine now if you've got a team of 5 developers, 10 developers, 50 developers working on your work items. You've got a whole range of things that they're updating here. They're making a lot of changes. You don't want all of that, obviously, in teams. You want to know maybe certain things, but not all of it. So yeah, the good thing is now you can say actually you want to actually refine your connector again. I added a connector. I realize it's not working properly. I configured it not the way I think is helpful. So I can easily go in again and reconfigure it. And sorry, what did I just click? Try that again. I want to do this one. I want to manage the existing connector, not configure a new connector. Going here, this is what I configured. So I cannot obviously change the project. If I made a mistake here, I just have to remove it. But right now I just want to say, yeah, if item is updated, that's good. but I only want to get notified, for example, if it's, for example, a bug, or if it's a certain thing. Let's just actually say, no, I only want to get notified for bugs. Again, just to narrow it down again to something more manageable within Teams, because that's our focus right now. Or actually a better idea, I want to change it to only notify me when the assigned to has been updated. Again, that's not something where we're now telling you, oh, you should configure it exactly this way. It's something we need to think about what kind of activity in DevOps do you want to surface in Teams, what actually provides value to you. And now we configured it, work item updated, but only if the assigned to changed. So let's make a quick test. So I'm going to assign Alex to the allow filtering of data. This one should now show up. And I'm going to change services has a bug. Again, just going to change now severity from medium to high. Good. So one of those items, the allow filtering of data, should now show up within our Teams. Services has a bug should not show up. And yeah, we can see allow filtering of data assigned to Alex Wilbur shows up. The other one won't come in. I mean, we can continue watching it, but it's not going to show up. Of course, I just reconfigured my connector. Very good. So I can see now, yeah, assigned to Alex Wilbur, perfect. We can now see something that's been happening. And again, we can now, for example, other stakeholders might actually now know and be aware of it. Create to soon. Other stakeholders then can now actually provide comments and see what's happening in DevOps, even though they don't have access to DevOps. Now, what should not happen, I'm just going to bring this one here over now. I'm now logged in here in Teams. Looks exactly the same. I'm in Teams again in my project starters, but now I'm actually the stakeholder Megan, who doesn't have access to DevOps. So just to show you again, DevOps, no, oh, she doesn't have access. She doesn't know what's happening there, but she can still see what's actually getting added here to Teams. So she can come in and see, oh, should we even support it? No, let's not support IE9. No one wants to support IE9 anymore. This is now a good benefit. So she can actually come in here, provide comments, even though she's not aware of any details of what's written in DevOps here, she can provide further feedback. That's obviously now also a risk. Megan might provide content comments in here. And let me just switch back to Alex, who now sees that update. Oh, where is it? Here. He sees now, oh, something has been added here. But it's not in DevOps, in our bug that the development team is working on. So obviously drawback now in that scenario now could be, yeah, he now has to go in and say, Megan confirm that we don't support IE9. Now there's this disconnect. So that's very important here. So depending on what you're doing in Teams, there may be additional activity that you need to do again in DevOps. Again, also as a developer, what you shouldn't be doing is then say steps to reproduce. I'm not going to correct my spelling anymore. 1, 2, etc. That's obviously not what you want to do. You don't want to do things as a developer who has access to DevOps. You don't want to do those things directly here in Teams right now. No, that's something that should go obviously here into this section here in DevOps. That's very important here. You need to provide clear guidance on what you should be doing in DevOps and what you should be doing in Teams. You can see that there are some benefits of surfacing information here from DevOps into Teams, but again, it's actually not directly connected to DevOps in the sense that anything that's happening in Teams gets sent back into DevOps. You could try to build such connectors, etc. So if somebody comments here, then let's try to get it again, provide feedback, but no, that's going to get quite messy. So important, make it clear if somebody's commenting on things here, make sure that, yeah, those are people, any comments here that get added here, find their way back into DevOps, or if somebody has access to DevOps, tell them, no, you should be putting it directly in the correct location, not discuss it in here. But you get the idea. So there's a whole lot of things that can now get surfaced here within Teams. People can come in here, can collaborate now on those DevOps work items, even though they don't have access to DevOps itself. Now, one other thing I want to quickly show is, again, the tabs here on top. I mentioned, again, we can add a tab to, for example, connect to a website or do other things. We can also connect to DevOps. So yeah, you can see there's a whole bunch of other apps and other content that we can connect to, but we want to connect now to DevOps. Yeah, I'm going to select an existing organization. So let's just quickly sign in. Yeah, I'm going to use Alex. I'm currently signed in as well anyway. Selecting my organization. So again, just scrolling through a bit. So what do we do now? So we've got the possibility to add a dashboard, or we can add a Kanban board. So let's have a quick look at dashboards, and then let's just look at our Smart Hotel 360 dashboard type team. Let's select the team and select the dashboard overview. All right, so let's quickly add that here. So I'm here now within Teams in my general channel. I added the nice looking dashboard directly in here, and I can see actually what's actually happening directly within our DevOps project. Again, this is just surfacing the exact same thing here. Now, that's actually not a copy or anything. That's the exact same thing from DevOps. So if I go to my dashboards over here, for example, you see, that's basically just what I'm displaying right now within Teams. The idea is then, yeah, that could be something that people can quickly access without accessing DevOps. For example, as a, let's call it a, I don't know, a development manager, maybe you don't want to jump directly into DevOps all the time in a different tab. Maybe you just want to have a quick look at it. Yeah, all right, looks good, done. It's a Yeah, it's similar to a small bookmark, helps you to get there. But again, the idea is then things still happen over in DevOps. So if I say, oh, there's something work assigned to me, I'm going to click on this one here. It's happening directly here now within my tab, and I can make my changes. So it's a small replacement. I'm not going to say, wow, it's a big game changer, making things so much better. It can help you, can provide a bit of value. But again, maybe you're already so used to being over in DevOps as well. Up to you in the end, up to your personal preference in here right now. One quick important thing, let's quickly jump in again to the other browser again, logging in again as Megan. So I'm going to go again to channel. I can see what's happening here. I'm going to click on my Stardust Smart Hotel. Again, oh, I don't have access to it. Again, we didn't create a copy of it in any way or so, or granting access to something which is surfacing here exactly what's in DevOps. And if you don't have access, for example, to the dashboard, you don't get to see it. So if you're thinking, hey, great, I've got my dashboard here, but we don't want to grant everyone access to DevOps, no, you can't surface it that way. You still get the same error here. All right, the other quick tab I want to show you is the Kanban boards. So again, let me just reconnect again and select my organization and my project. Good on time. Kanban board. So again, selecting a project, Smart Hotel 360, selecting my 360 team, and we're going to look at. Actually, I think it doesn't matter much. Let's just look at the features. I hope I chose the right one. There should be something here. Yeah. Okay. Good. So we can see something here that's in our DevOps Kanban board. I can easily now see actually all the features. I can now say, for example, yeah, actually go smart, go green with smart sensors. That's in progress. All good here. I can easily then work on those things as an example. Maybe we know these two things are in progress right now. I can update it directly from here. Again, maybe just a personal preference. Maybe you want to do that in here right now because you want to make that small change, and then you go back to files because right now, oh, I want to actually create a new, again, maybe a new, as mentioned, documentation for a document to work on it, and then actually other people can come in. So now we're moving out of, we're moving out of DevOps again. We're just showing, what else could be done as a development team. you could now actually work on your items, purpose, getting started, logging in, etc. So you can actually easily then work on your documentation in here as well. And again, benefit here is, hope it's going to show up in a second. Yeah. Logged in here also is Megan, obviously you can collaborate here on the same document. So that's the big benefit of, again, using Teams now in a development project here as well. You can collaborate here, work together, and yeah, start obviously any further activities here. All right, so again, there are other benefits of using Teams then here as well. I could actually also, for example, what we could also do now is, well, it's not directly DevOps related for Azure DevOps. I mean, as DevOps activities, you have regular meetings, regular updates, etc. So maybe you want to have a new channel where you say, then we want to have a daily meeting channel. And all you do, for example, every day in this daily meeting channel is every day at, I don't know, 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. or so. What you can do is then actually you can just meet. Doesn't show here right now because I'm in the browser, I think, but I could obviously then set up a recurring meeting here. Down here it's working. Just actually check that. Obviously my camera, everything else. You can see me now twice maybe, yeah. So I could now easily then meet now here again directly within the channel, and I'm just going to try to break my computer by joining the meeting a second time. You see now here, for example, Megan is now also able, obviously, to join our call here. Yeah, I'm just going to allow that. Not sure if it's going to pick up anything. You might now see the back of the Surface camera. Me again. But yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Idea was not to introduce an infinite echo loop, but you get the idea now. You can have your daily stand-up meeting directly here, and I think I made my browser just crash. All right. Let me just check. I'm still in, at least in Teams, so Edge is now struggling, but yeah, let me just switch, hopefully. Here it is. Let me just switch back into PowerPoint mode. So let's just quickly wrap it up because we're nearly at the end now. Recommendations. So we've seen a couple of things. So very important when you start planning, how can you put DevOps, your Azure DevOps into team, or you start planning about how do you want to separate your notifications into specific channels. Ideas, don't create one channel to receive all notifications, but create dedicated channels. For example, again, we've seen, for example, one channel for builds, maybe create a channel for releases, create a channel for specific work items that you should get notified on, etc. That requires some thinking, some planning. So you need to think about where do we get some value out of it. You don't want to see, for example, all the work item updates, not important, but any new work item that gets created, maybe we should just get a quick notification so that any other stakeholders get notified, etc. And again, create specific channels for all those purposes. Also, again, think carefully what you should get notified about. We've seen the notifications for all updates on work items. It might just clutter your teams, your channels. If you get 100 notifications into Teams every day, everybody's going to ignore it. There's no value in it, etc. So it should really be, ideally, every notification should provide you with some value. If a build succeeds, yeah, you're happy. If a build fails, you're not happy. That's maybe what you want to see. If you're running 100 builds a day, as an example, might not be very good. Maybe then you just want to see all those that fail or something like that. So again, you don't want to see all the succeeded builds, as an example. Again, we can't provide clear guidance on, yes, this is exactly how you have to configure it. It's up to you and your team in the end to figure out where do you see the value in it. Again, also provide clear guidance on how to use them. Don't put any details on how a bug can be reproduced in Teams. Creating new work items maybe should also not be obviously done in teams, while it can get started there if somebody from the business side recommends something. Yeah, maybe get started and then moves into DevOps again as a development team member. Obviously, then you don't want to discuss those things directly in teams. Anything that you should be doing in DevOps has to remain in DevOps. And lastly, again, review regularly. So we've seen it very quickly just now. I realized I made some configuration mistakes, got too many notifications. I don't want all of them. So yeah, review regularly what you've been doing, how you configured it. Review the configurations, review the whole process. If people continuously post new bugs in Teams, but should be doing in DevOps, then review the whole process. How should bugs be actually recorded, etc. Provide guidance, talk to people, etc. Don't rely on the technology here, but include, importantly, very important, include the process and the people here in that whole activity again. All right, before I'm moving on to the Q&A, quick comment again. There'll be a raffle, there'll be 3 Oculus Quest given away. So visit the vendors booth sessions and watch the videos, submit your answers to enter the raffles. And again, you need some correct answers to get it done. If you want to donate again to COVID-19 relief, any other charity relief funds, again, here's some links that you can consider. 10% of the funds from the sponsors that were donated go to those efforts. And lastly, again, thank you for joining us again. Now's a good point to actually ask any questions that you may have in the Q&A. If you haven't done so, you still got some time, you still got 10 minutes before the next session starts. Other than that, quick thank you from me. And if you've got any other feedback or want to provide feedback, actually scan those QR codes and let us know. All right. I'm going to quickly check now any questions.
No questions so far, but we'll give it a minute.
Good. So one quick comment, obviously, there's some links that can also be accessed. So if you just look for Azure DevOps, then you can have a look at it yourself. You can spin up a demo environment. You can spin up a demo Office 365 environment as well. And you can just play around with it again as well if you are required. If you're thinking about testing it, for example, in without any real data, can be done easily as well. If you're thinking about testing it in your own environment, again, you can quickly set up a team, set up a channel, check if it's working for you. If it is, then extend it. If you realize now it doesn't provide any value, again, the goal is not to enforce technology on people, but make sure that the process actually supports the people and the technology, and again, leading to some value again to end users. All right.
We don't have any questions. If you want us to wait on for a couple more minutes and see if anything comes through, you can. Otherwise, I think we are about done.
So while we're here, let's have a quick look. There should be one more build. Yeah, I forgot to check that one. Yeah, so the build that succeeded as well. That's the one I executed manually again. So you can see everything's happening continuously, and I could also configure. Let me just see. No, I didn't configure any. Actually, I configured one release created, but I think I never released anything. So you can see you can configure as required. And while we're still here, I might just quickly show again. For DevOps, let's just quickly show you again the list of events that you can actually work on or get notified on, not work on. So any team, sorry, here we see the list again. So important, maybe again, build completed, quite important, probably code pushed, could be interesting. There are some pull requests. Might also be interesting, release abandoned created. So I think the release items might be relevant. And when you want to discuss again to your stakeholders, yeah, something new has been done, or release deployment, for example, that might be quite important then, or more important, probably release completed, and all the work items. So you see there's a couple of things that, again, you need to think about each of them. Does it make sense or not to put it into teams and to surface it into all your different stakeholders as needed? All right, but no further questions coming in. So I think, what time is it? Okay, so I think, yeah, and I'm gonna, say thank you again. Thanks for joining. Hope you get some value out of it and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Great. Thank you, Rene.